Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. So, first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. I am a teacher. I straight up front don't want to make any some bones about it. I am a conservative at heart, although I'm very much. I tend to lean a little bit more libertarian when it comes to old-fashioned libertarian. When it comes to certain things, I like to put some stuff out in front, right ahead. But we're gonna do what my podcast is gonna be about. It's gonna be a lot of discussing what's going on in schools, since that's right up in my purview, as well as things going on in culture, things that are being talked about, things that could be said either locally here in South Carolina or going on the national stage. Now, the title of this book is, of this video is From a Teacher to a Parent. And the reason for that is we're going to get right into our first topic here is what is being taught to your kids at schools. All right. Now, I am the kind of person, if I want to help raise your child, it's a partnership between the teacher and the parents on how to raise a child. Ultimately, you guys are the biggest factor on if your child is successful versus versus your child not being successful. And primarily, when you have a teacher and parents that are working together on certain stuff, that is when you're going to get children that are coming out of school that are prepared. They're ready to take on the world. They're confident, and they're able to be successful members of society. Now, that being said, y'all, as I say, I don't have any kids of my own. However, as a teacher, I look at all the kids that walk into my classroom as my children. You know, I would take a bullet for any one of the kids that walk into my classroom, and I have no bones about that. You know, I would gladly step in front of a car to save my kids. Straight up. But y'all, we've got to start taking control as parents. We've gotten too lax with how society has pushed certain views on our kids throughout their childhood, and as they've gotten older, up into high school, and then when they get into college, that those certain views are then not only encouraged, but they're not even given an opposing opinion on it. When they are given an opposing opinion, they don't know how to cope with it, so they just decide, as many adults do, they shout it down. They don't want to hear it. Whatever, you're crazy, and walk on. But y'all, listen, if it's like several court cases back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you are going to continuously hear push BLM and LGBTQ and all of these other views on kids at elementary levels, middle school, high school is different because you're old enough that you should be able to make a decision on your own. But in elementary and middle school, when they are entrusted to us to make a decision on, entrusted to us to form an opinion on something, and then we as adults and as educators are supposed to challenge them of that opinion. Okay, I'm supposed to bring in, to inquire, if you will, an idea, ask a question. Okay, you are not supposed to affirm these certain ideas. Okay, now that's not to say that the United States doesn't have its issues with some of these areas. However, speaking from a kid who grew up in a broken home in a super poor small town in upstate New York, let me just say to you, A majority of what some of these people go through that complain every single day about all this and that have no idea what they're talking about, and they have not witnessed a oppression in any sort of way, just something to complain about. But kind of getting off topic here, but the liberal views in schools. Okay. Now, as I said before, I understand if you want to teach certain liberal values to children. I understand that. However, if you're going to push certain liberal ideas to children, you should also push certain conservative views to children. And the reason why this is, and the reason why I say the next statement that I'm going to say is because by teaching, listen, if you're going to teach LGBTQ and everything else to these kids, balance it out with teaching the Bible or teaching the Quran or teaching something, a religious text, and have a religious unit. Okay, because these things go hand in hand, unfortunately. But it's, in my view, my personal view, it is better to start a child out more conservative, abstaining from bad behaviors until they become older. Because then when they get into high school and they are then slowly exposed to different ideas, they are then old enough once they get into college, once they graduate and all of these other things, these big important things in your life, that is when you can start to explore certain aspects of your life and which ones work for you. Now, might I say that as somebody who's a Christian and, the churches are obviously kind of still closed right now, but as somebody who's a Christian, I don't expect somebody to dive right in and be somebody that goes to church every Sunday. I don't expect that from somebody. Just as though you wouldn't expect me to dive right into certain other ideas that you may fully support without a shadow of a doubt. Okay? But when it comes to teaching certain things in school, there should be certain things that are inherently evil. Inherently evil. For example, the teaching communism to children. Inherently evil. Okay? Looking at somebody and saying, I want your stuff, which is basically what communism is inherently evil. Socialism, same thing. Teaching certain ideologies, such as critical race theory, is inherently dangerous to kids. Kids do not, as they grow older, do not grow up looking at other kids' skin and wondering why I shouldn't play with that kid. No, absolutely not. Anybody who's ever had kids knows that is not how that goes. How that works is on the playground. Little Jimmy wants to play with Susie and Lily. Susie and Lily want to play with Jimmy as well. So what do? They make friends and they go play. It's literally just that simple. There is no conversation of what do you support, what is your skin color, none of this other adult garbage that is being pushed on them by adults. They just go and play on the playground. It's amazing. It's an amazing. I wish more adults were as accepting to each other as kids are to one another. I do. It's an amazing thing watching kids make friends with each other because it's the most beautiful thing. It's the most pure thing that you're ever going to see, and I highly recommend. I highly recommend having kids and experiencing that yourself. But to my final point, these kinds of teachings in schools is not only detrimental to the community that you live in, but it's also detrimental to the child as they grow older. Because if they are being taught in this certain ideology for the majority of their life starting back in, you cannot sit there and have these kids constantly being reaffirmed in the school system to then turn around and say, okay, now we're going to send you to college and you're now going to be reaffirmed in that value system. It cannot happen. You constantly, as a parent and as a teacher, you have to constantly be challenging these the children that you're looking to create solid relationships with, and not just that, solid a solid citizen growing up in the community. So preaching this kind of stuff to kids at an elementary level or at a middle school level and certainly at an elementary level is highly irresponsible and quite damaging to your child at a young age. All right, so onto our second topic here. So this is a little bit more global, and this is just from a teacher's take on certain things. Today on CNN, I noticed that, and I try to listen to all kinds of media. Noticed today that many of the journalists are backing Joe Biden's claim. For those of you who did not see it, I will put the clip down in the chat. That Facebook is killing people for the disinformation that they put. Y'all, this is some of the most despicable stuff that I have ever seen a politician put on the public space. As the president of the United States, your job, okay, is to A, put out fires, B, to make sure that what it is that you are saying is as close to the truth as you possibly can. Not your truth, not what you think is the truth, your truth. And truth is a funny thing that we're throwing around now, especially considering the crazy year that we've had. It seems like the truth cannot be, for whatever reason, given to somebody like me, some Joe Schmo living their lives every single day. And it was very telling to somebody like me, who's just your average run-of-the-mill teacher, going about his day every single day, going to work out, getting stuff done in my car, just living an everyday life, to then see on CNN, a global news media, let me say that again, a global news media, that Facebook, a platform, just like a platform with Verizon or AT&T or any of these phone companies, is killing people because they are allowing certain kinds of information on social media. Y'all, that is for anybody who is a fan of history or has watched watched any sort of history documentary, knows that is very, very dangerous ground. The reason why I say that's dangerous ground, okay, I understand that he wants to get people vaccinated. I understand that. Okay, me as somebody who's a conservative, I went and I got vaccinated because I wanted to hurry up and get the kids back in school. It was a moral decision, and that's how it should be treated. Now, on the same token, you also should not be going door to door to these people, because a majority of the people that don't want to get vaccinated have had plenty of opportunity to go get vaccinated. Let them deal with the fallout now. The beauty about living in the United States is, guess what? You get to make your own decisions, and you get to either lay in the bed that you have made in the dirt, or you get to lay in the bed that is made for royalty. It's about your decision making and the hard work that you put into it. It's mind-blowing to me that people that are in the news media Now, I just started this podcast primarily to connect with people, to think of different ideas, talking about culture, trying to make the world a better place. And making the world a better place is not getting on the national airwaves and spewing out a bunch of garbage when it comes to Facebook is killing people, the response from certain media outlet, certain news journalists, quote unquote journalists, I use that term very loosely, is despicable. A few journalists this morning talking about, if I was running Facebook, I would absolutely not allow this kind of stuff. Well, it's probably a good thing that you're not running Facebook, isn't it? And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the journalist, and I'll put it down in the chat, the clip. But for the life of me, I will not understand why people who are in a certain part, a certain profession that requires that you have freedom of speech, freedom of the press, wants to silence certain kinds of speech. And I can tell you why. It's because CNN's ratings are in the tank. They're garbage. They are hot flaming garbage in August in Georgia. Okay? Hot garbage. Okay? It's mind-blowing to me that you, who are supposed to be searching for the truth, not ratings, you're supposed to be searching for the truth, is constantly looking to silence other speech. Constantly. The fact that we have a news media this afternoon that is calling for Facebook and other social media platforms to censor certain kinds of speech. I was y'all, as an American, I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't even wrap my head around it, because this is so, as an American, this is so anti against what we're about. It boggles the mind. So, average everyday Americans, we need to look at what happened over the weekend. What happened over the weekend? Press Secretary Jen Psaki came out and gave a list, including pictures of these people on a big board, saying these people are leading a campaign of misinformation. Y'all, that is putting a bullseye in a basically putting a bounty on these people's heads. The kind of as a teacher, I teach my kids, listen, be careful what you say. Okay? Because your words carry weight. What you say matters, and how you say it matters as well. To openly come out and say something like that, as well as the president of the United States, because shame on Joe Biden. Listen, I'm the kind of guy, I cheer for him when he does something good. I shame him when he does something dumb, just like I did with every other president before him. What on earth? As somebody who watches this stuff on a daily basis, it's just mind blowing to me that it makes it you can only come up with one conclusion. The only reason they're pushing it, and it's so short-sighted, because as a journalist, you cannot look at what they are doing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of these different platforms, TikTok especially, and say that stuff is misinformation. But what I do is that's the truth. Well, why can't I get my sources from a bunch of different places and not just from you? See, I'd rather get my sources from a bunch of different places and all have them say the same thing without them cooperating with each other, or rather than getting it from one group that has consistently been wrong throughout this entire process and over the past 20 years. So I ask you, everyday Americans, when are we going to hold these people accountable? I mean, we hold our kids accountable, right? If a kid acts up in my classroom, guess what? He gets to go sit down for right now. He doesn't get to do PE for right now. 5-minute break. Why is it different from kids to a teacher versus average citizens to the people we elect? I don't understand. Why isn't somebody in that press room looking at Jen Psaki and saying, "No, you're wrong. Give us the information"? I'm just asking a question here. And I leave you with that to ponder. We talked about issues going on in schools, and we'll continue to talk about that. As a teacher, a majority of the time, that is the stuff I'm going to. That a majority of it, of what I'm going to talk about, is stuff going on in the schools, and then we'll work our way from schools to the broader community, stuff going on culturally, and stuff going on around the United States. My name is Coach Grover. I am signing off, and I hope y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for joining me on my first episode. There's many more to come. There will be some that will have a co-host with me, and we'll connect on that in future times. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep it together. Keep being solid citizens in your community. Keep working hard. I know a lot of y'all are going through some struggles right now. Keep it together. You can do it. I have faith in you. And I look forward to seeing you on my second episode. See ya.